Hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of AWS She Builds Tech Skills North America. Welcome to this another exciting episode. I'm Bhavisha Davada. I'm a senior solutions architect based out of New York, supporting enterprise customers in their journey to the cloud, actually specifically focusing on manufacturing enterprise customers. And I've been at AWS for close to 2 years now. It's been almost 2 years working at AWS, and it's definitely been a fun journey. Today, I'm co hosting this episode. I mean, my first episode alongside Tamara. Tamara, do you want to introduce yourself and tell our audience why you joined the She Builds core team?
Of course, yeah. Thank you, Vavisha. My name is Tamara Gagliardi. I am also a senior solutions architect. I am based out of Los Angeles, and I've been with AWS for a little over 4 years now. And I support healthcare life sciences customers, HCLS customers out of Southern California. These are customers in med tech devices. So maybe they develop medical devices or medical implants, as well as genomic customers. These are customers that are studying the genetic information or sequencing for drug discovery or for diagnosis of different diseases. And this is actually my second time co-hosting. We did special episodes with She Builds Tech Skills North America, celebrating Women's International Day. If you haven't seen the episode, go back in our feed and play that video. We talk about women in technical role and share some of our tips. We also have another member that is helping us behind the scene. This is our moderator, Yusra, who will be in the background addressing any questions that you might have. So feel free to use the chat and interact with us through the chat.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Tamara. I think we featured couple of episodes during the International Women's Day, and I definitely encourage the audience to go to our YouTube channel, look at those episodes just in case you've missed them. So thank you for that reminder. Uh, so before we dive into the episode, Tamara, maybe quick side talk. I've been very curious these days. I've been reading a lot. I'm sure a lot of us are listening about it, reading about it. Generative AI is trending, specifically talking about like Chat GPT, which is like the most famous application for generative AIs, and there are a few others. So I'm curious, Tamara, both for you and the viewers, how do you leverage generative AI or any of those applications to make your day to day life easy?
Yeah, this is a hot topic that I keep on reading everywhere in the internet. And like you mentioned, ChatGPT is a chatbot by OpenAI. Like other chatbots, you can ask questions and it'll provide answers. I think historically we're used to having chatbots having predetermined or predefined answers. But with ChatGPT, you can ask very complex questions and you'll get complex answers. I was very intrigued as to how it works behind the scenes and how is it that it's able to provide. I'll share some of the articles that I've been reading. But it all behind the scenes, it uses language model architecture called generative pre-trained transform, hence GPT. And in addition to that, it also uses supervised learning and reinforcement learning. So for reinforcement learning, I like to share the anecdote that somebody shared with me as to how I can remember what reinforcement learning is. If you were to be training a dog and you provide treats with the dog as you're training it, probably will keep doing those tricks. Very similarly with algorithms, if you provide rewards to that training, then it will continue on that path. Whereas supervised learning, it uses labeled data sets to train the algorithms, and it classifies the data, and it also provides predictions on it. The other thing that a lot of people have been mentioning about ChatGPT is that it sounds very human-like. And this is related to the fact that behind the scenes it's also NLP, so natural processing language. This is an artificial intelligence and AI technology that it's used to understand, also analyze and generate human-like language responses. One of the articles that I recently read on our AWS blog, will be sharing the link with you on chat. It's a blog that talks about how you can use event-driven serverless architecture in conjunction with JetGPT and DALL-E or DALL-E, which is another generative AI solution that generates images. Think of it as like the artistic way of JetGPT. And in this blog, it tells the story about how you can use a combination of the solutions to create bedtime stories. So JetGPT will create the characters in the story, and then DALL-E will be that painter behind the scenes creating the images. I thought that's go ahead and check the blog. It goes more in detail and it provides some visuals. And more closer to my customers in healthcare life sciences, one of the items that I'm super intrigued to see how we continue to develop within generative AI is both drug discovery and cancer research or research of other diseases. What about you, Bavisha? What have you been reading about, or what are you interested in sharing about ChatGPT?
No, I think firstly I love your analogy of reinforcement learning, like using tricks to train the dog. It's very important to like use those analogies to understand this complex terms, right? Complex applications. I see somebody posted on the chat as well that great definition. So thank you, Tamara, for walking us through like the foundations behind the scenes on how it actually works. And it's funny, Dolly or Dolly, however you say it, I recently stumbled upon it. So I was working on a computer vision proof of concept, and I did not have enough images to train my model, right? And that's where I asked Dolly to generate some images for me based on my requirements. I gave it a text on what exactly I'm looking for, specifically for my manufacturing customer, and then it generated the images for me, which I could leverage to train my computer vision model in AWS. As looking using Lookout for Vision and for training my model. So interesting, you talk about Dolly, and just on my personal fun side, I used this one of these generative AI applications. I don't remember the name, but to get some inspiration for my interior designing, right? So I was just curious, how does this sofa look in my living room? So I asked that application to show me an images. So what's going to happen now is you can actually paint a picture with everything that's in your head, right? So you can actually look at visual. I'm very excited of what future holds, specifically for like real use cases like the HCLS customers, the drug discovery use case that you talked about, generative AI for manufacturing. So I'm definitely excited for the future and what how these applications are going to like make things easier and faster, specifically for applications like this. Audience, if you have anything exciting to share on how you have used generative AI applications, we are looking forward to hearing your comments and reading them. While you're thinking about it, maybe let's Tamara jump into the video, and do you want to like quickly introduce what the video is about?
Yeah, so coming to today's episode, we have part two of FinOps services. We'll be covering nationwide. In our part one, if you missed it, we talked with the director of cloud optimization, Ursula Levesque, about the business drivers from FinOps and from Nationwide. Nationwide is one of the largest insurance and financial services organization in the United States. And today we will be sharing a story and a session that we had with Jay Reed. He is the technology service practitioner consultant at Nationwide, and he shared with us how is it that at Nationwide they looked at cost optimization, how they work across their teams to look at ways to right sizing, ways to, as you're building on AWS, making sure that that cost is optimized. I've been working with so many customers in Southern California about the same topic. So I think this will be very relevant to a lot of our viewers. So let's jump to see the full story.
Absolutely, let me do that. Hello and welcome to AWS She Builds Tech Skills North America. Today, Candace and I are joined by Jay Reed from Nationwide, who will share technical details about Nationwide's FinOps implementation. Jay, thank you for being with us today. So, to begin with, can you tell us a little more about your background and what do you do in this role at Nationwide?
I've been in technology for about 20 years. Most of that time was spent doing server administration, Windows and Linux servers, and that started off obviously with physical servers, and then we got into virtualization, and then eventually the virtualization led to cloud. A big part of my job when I was doing physical servers, obviously, racking servers, building servers, administering them, cabling them. But another big part was, quoting. We would have a project or we would have requirements, and I'd have to take those requirements and turn them into a quote for a server where we would go to our vendor and get that equipment ordered. It would take time to put a quote together, and then you would order it. You would have to get approval, and then depending on what the supply was like at the time, it could take weeks or even months to get that equipment in. So you would always want to make sure that you were quoting it or sizing it as accurately as possible. And you'd have to look at the life of the hardware, and if it had to last 3 years, it would have to be sized for how big it would need to be, in 3 years' time. But it could be disastrous if you ordered something too small and would have to go back and reorder or get things refunded, and it would just really delay the project. Working in cloud was just a dream come true with the ease of spinning something up and how quickly you could do it. So that was amazing too. And then the other thing is there's zero upfront costs. Basically when you spin up a resource, you start paying for it, and when you stop it or terminate it, you stop paying for it. In my current role, a lot of the time we have to look at what resources we have deployed and make sure they're sized appropriately, they're not oversized, or they're not idle. It's kind of the opposite. We don't want to build anything for how or sized what it needs to be in 3 years' time. It needs to be sized appropriately for now. So you want to start small, with the elasticity of AWS and the cloud, just increase it to what you need it to be.
I think Jay explained it perfectly, right? Faster time to market, elasticity, and then cost savings. I think those are the key benefits of using the cloud. So, Jay, very impressive. I think I'm very impressed by your career journey so far.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. Definitely the things that we like to promote through using the cloud. So beautiful. So now that you are at Nationwide and you're doing this stuff on your team with FinOps and kind of optimizing all these things, can you talk a little bit about the cloud teams at Nationwide and how your team works with those teams?
So I'm on a cost optimization team, and we do chargebacks as well as looking at our current resources, make sure they're sized appropriately, and kind of minimizing waste. And we also look for anomalies, like if there's spikes in spending, we want to dig into those right away and make sure something's not broken, or it could be intentional, but we want to determine that quickly. So I'm on a team of about 7 people. We all have kind of different backgrounds. I would say there's some people on the team with financial backgrounds, project management backgrounds. Like I said, have an engineering background and that kind of server administration. So my function on the team is to be a little bit more technical and to be, kind of a technical liaison with our other technical cloud teams, like our security team or our infrastructure team or our DevOps team. So that's my role on the team, is to interface with those other teams and, be a bridge.
That's amazing, right? Your team is like central to so many other teams within the organization. So Jay, how do you coordinate, like with so many divisions, so many people you have to interact and manage? How do you coordinate your communication with these different teams?
Yeah, so we call our application teams BSA teams. And like I said, there's 6 of us that are actively interfacing with these BSAs. So we've kind of divided all the BSAs at Nationwide among us, and we each have like an area that we work with. We also have a tool called Halo that allows us to ingest work or tickets from many of our BSAs, and it turns them into GitHub cards that we can work on.
Can you show us? Is that something that you would be able to show us how that works? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think I have a visual of that.
I really like that you call it Halo too. It's like your angels coming to help the team. So that's pretty nice.
So this is our Halo intake form, and basically, if they choose general consulting and then cost guidance, it will come to my team. There's some other choices they could have that would send it to a different technical team, but this is how we ingest the cards for just our team.
So what happens next? We put in a request, and then how do you filter those requests?
So yeah, they put in a request, it gets turned into a GitHub card, and it hits our repo, which we monitor. We get an email when something new hits. We determine, who to assign that to based upon, who handles that BSA, or it could even be someone might have a special skill. So then we get that assigned out, and then, that person will contact the requester, and either, it could be as simple as like a quick answer in an email, or if it's, more complicated than that, then we would schedule a meeting.
Yeah, a task management system, right? Like with basically sorted by expertise. This is great. Is this something that's ingrown, homegrown? I mean, Jay?
Yeah, this is a tool that's been internally built and maintained.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, so with your primary responsibility of cost optimization, Jay, is there any specific optimization wins that you would like to share with our audience here, right? Like, how did you identify the problem? How did you come to a solution, and any quantifiable results that you were able to achieve with that solution?
So we use Trusted Advisor a lot, and the recommendations on Trusted Advisor. So again, we split those out among our BSAs, and then we communicate with them on a monthly basis to say, hey, here's some optimizations you can take advantage of, and with the potential cost saving. We'll look at EC2, RDS, EBS, all those recommendations to communicate those out. But another part of my role is to look at kind of enterprise-wide optimizations we can make, at kind of like the enterprise level. So one of the things that we've done this year is we've implemented S3 intelligent tiering, which I don't know if you're not familiar with it. It'll monitor your S3 usage, and if the data isn't being accessed frequently, it will drop it to a lower tier that's cheaper. So we were able to implement that across the whole enterprise. We saw a 40% cost savings.
That is awesome. And I love intelligent tiering because it's a checkbox. It's a very easy thing to implement. So if for anyone who is watching this right now, you're not using intelligent tiering, you should do that. As you just heard here, it saved Nationwide 40% on their bill. So I think that's amazing. Also, another quick little plug for another AWS mechanism that we have is our well-architected review. And as part of that, we have multiple pillars in there. I think there's 6. And one of them is a cost optimization pillar. If you do have an account team, your solutions architect like Bhavisha or I could do that with you. But also that particular pillar, that cost optimization pillar, is something that a FinOps team or a team like Jay's team can really help you with. So I just like those sort of things. Also like to drop little plugs for what we can do, what you can do, and how to optimize your cloud better. So Jay, probably the final question maybe for you today is, what comes next? What do you have in your pipeline? Is there anything that you would like to do next, whether that's with your GitHub boards or an optimization that you would like to do within Nationwide?
The way intelligent tiering works is, data that isn't accessed frequently will fall to the next lowest tier, and if it's continually not accessed, it'll fall to the next lowest tier. And what we're talking about is like when it hits that lowest tier, we should do some automation that will just delete the data at that point, some other way to archive it. One more thing that I wanted to talk about real quick, though, is we are using the AWS cost anomaly detector to detect spikes, see any unusual spend. So the great thing about that tool is you can subscribe to notifications where it'll send you an email when one of these anomalies is detected. And I've used Microsoft Power Automate to turn those emails into a chat, so my team monitors. And whenever anomaly is detected, it goes into the chat. We can all see it at the same time, and we can even chat about it in the team's chat, like, can someone take a look at this? Do we think this is significant, or does anyone know what's causing that? So that's another real neat thing that we've done recently.
I think that's amazing, right? We call it like AWS provides you the Lego box, and it's up to your creativity on how you want to leverage our services. Like in this case, you've actually turned it into a chat message so that you can chat with your internal stakeholders. So it's amazing to hear such innovative solutions built on AWS.
That's awesome. So, really like to hear your story, how you've been able to save Nationwide some money over time and kind of optimize some things. Also, really great to hear people's career journey. I think that's an important piece of the She Builds program as well. Just how do people get to where they are today? So, that is going to wrap up our interview with you today, Jay. I just want to thank you for being here with us. And thank you, Bhavisha, for being my partner in this interview. I really hope that our viewers today have learned something that they can take back to their AWS accounts and to start saving a little bit of money. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Jay, and thank you, Candice, for this.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course.
Awesome. I think that was very interesting, right? Both his journey and the problem that he talked about. So talking about journey first, I think when we talk about the cloud, it's also a mindset change. And Jay very well talked about how we had to change from the on-prem mindset to the cloud mindset. Like you cannot no longer control the infrastructure and you have to give away that responsibility, but you get a lot more benefits in with using the cloud. So that's amazing. Thank you, Jay, for sharing that. And talking about the problem, right, Tamara, as cloud financial management is becoming very important, right? Especially with this macroeconomics change, the customers have been asking us on how to optimize cost in the cloud, and it's always been a top priority for us as solutions architect here at AWS, right? How can we help our customers run cost optimized workloads in the cloud? So curious, Tamara, as an solutions architect, what do you do for your customers to help them achieve their cost goals?
So Jay touched on a lot of great best practices, like starting from monitoring. Without monitoring and alerting, you have no insight into your spend, into maybe I've seen across customers, maybe each team will have a project and maybe that budget is not allocated or they have no visibility into what their spend is. One thing that I have implemented and across different customers and help them implement something called the Cloud Intelligent Dashboard, or CUDOS, CUDOS, if you want to search for it. But we're also posting the link in the chat. And with this is a visualization that uses Amazon QuickSight. Amazon QuickSight is a business intelligence service, and it consumes the cost and usage report. This is what are the services that you're using, how much are you using of them, and it creates this visual that across different teams, what they have done, and a lot of the customers are implementing this, is being able to look back and have that near real-time information about how much those projects that they're running are costing them, and then also being able to supplement with other solutions such as Trusted Advisor, or doing right sizing of those services that they're using. So along that too, I've been scheduling bi-weekly touch syncs with some of my customers to review that information and just maybe some of the best practices that I've seen, looking at savings plans. These are ways that you can reduce sometimes up to 72% compared to on-demand spend by being able to commit to either 1 year or 3 year. And also looking at maybe your license usage. We have a program called AWS Optimization and License Agreement, or OLA, which helps you review currently your licenses. And we help you find more optimal ways of running those workloads. And I think lastly, is also looking at ways that you can improve both your code and also your architecture. Sometimes looking at more modern architectures will end up saving you on that cost. So if you're intrigued, I encourage you to check out the Cloud Intelligence Dashboard workshop, which goes more in depth, and it's related to what was mentioned on the video earlier about the wall architecture review.
Yeah, no, I think I totally agree, and thank you for sharing Kudos. Kudos has helped a lot of customers, right, gain more visibility into their organization cost or account level cost. And I think I talk about this in the video as well. We provide you with the Lego blocks, we provide you with the self-service tools, and it's up to your creativity on how you mature your application and how much information can do you want to look at, right? So it's interesting, and it's interesting to sometimes see how customers have matured or built applications on these Lego blocks. Jay also talks about a homegrown solution that they leveraged to build an application that they use today. And it's so talking about Kudos, right? Or let's say talking about S3 storage lens, what you could do is you can integrate with so many different services and get notified when there's an abnormal behavior. So like I said, you can use these Lego blocks to actually build a pipeline to get more visibility into the cost. And I see a question on the chat here about a technical question. So just like touching upon that, right? So we also have a very good community where you can ask your questions. It's called repost.aws, right? So you can basically use that community site. If you do not have an account team assigned to you, you can use that community to ask your technical questions, and a lot of folks like us are very active on that community and should get answers to you. So post your question there, craft code here, and we'll be happy to answer that. I think I went a little tangential there, but coming back to cost optimization. So I think, Tamara, you brought up a very good point, right? It's not always optimizing the cost of applications running in the cloud, but you could also bring on-prem applications to the cloud, modernize it, just like you mentioned, and also have a more cost-optimized approach to running your application. So it's an interesting perspective that cost optimization is not always about workloads running in the cloud, but you could also take something that's outside of the cloud, bring it in the cloud, and use more cloud native technologies like purpose built databases, serverless to save costs. So thank you for sharing that insight. I think experience helps, and you've helped a lot of your customers saving costs. So great insight for the audience. If you have any questions on cost optimization, please feel free to post them in the chat. But meanwhile, I see one question in the chat that maybe I'll touch upon a little bit is issues communicating complex technical concepts to non-technical stakeholders or customers. Wow, this is interesting. So thank you for that question. Yes, it's difficult. I mean, because you learn and breed in technology, you think everybody understands what you are talking about, but it's important to take a step back, understand the audience, and then design your conversation with the audience, right? So let's say you are communicating with non-technical stakeholders. It's important to keep your information at the level where it basically is more towards the business rather than about the technology implementation. But if you're communicating with technology stakeholders, it's important to dive deep and talk about the technical architecture. So that's my take. Knowing your audience well is very important, and we talk about this all the time, right? So when we're talking in sessions, it's important to know your audience and build the content based on your audience. So that's my 2 cents on that question. Tamara, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I was going to say that's exactly how we have been building the sessions. We bring in first the business perspective that speaks to that business user. And usually at Amazon, we tell customers that we like to work backwards from their business initiatives and then lay on the technology and the architecture. So things that have worked for me in the past is really understanding that audience, like what is the pain point that they're looking to address from a business perspective, and maybe not jumping into the solutioning. As architects, we love services, we love designing architectures, and sometimes we jump too quick into the solutioning without understanding which language or what kind of storytelling we can tell that business user or that non-technical user. I think you brought a good point, Bavisha, earlier when I mentioned reinforcement learning with the example of like training a dog, like you were going to be training your algorithm. So that is kind of a way of changing from a very technical and maybe more complex complex topic to something, maybe an analogy that is more relatable to non-technical people. So analogies are a tool set that I usually try to use when I'm explaining very complex topics.
Good point. Yeah. And I've been guilty of it myself. Sometimes we create the problem because we know the solution, right? So I've seen this happening with me. I'm sure a lot of technical folks are. When we see this amazing things like blockchain and this and that in the market, we're like, how do I leverage this? How do I get my hands dirty with this technology? But like you said, it's important to work backwards from a business problem and have all these technology solutions in your back pocket. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that insight, Tamara. Maybe the
Yeah.
fun part of the episode now. I think we have a question for the day for the audience, and you. This is an opportunity to win some cool prizes. So the question for the audience is: what storage optimization service did Nationwide leverage that helped them save some cost? And Jay talks about this at the very end of the episode. So let us know if you heard the episode. If not, go back, replay it. But the question is, what is that one tech cost optimization technology that Nationwide leveraged to save some cost this year? Good, good. I see the answer. Abhishek, thank you for sharing your answer. Yusra, if you don't mind, can you provide the SheBuilds email address to Abhishek, and Abhishek email it to us, and we'll make sure we have your prizes delivered to you. So thank you for listening in, and thank you for answering that. Great. So
Yeah,
I think
with that, I was going to mention just looking at everything that we covered. I think this is going to be a wrap for us. Thank you very much, Bavisha, for co-hosting with me, and behind the scenes, Yusra, for interacting with our audience. There were a lot of questions that came through and a lot of interaction from the audience. So thank you very much. And with that also, I wanted to invite you to our next episode, which will air on April 25th. We will have Kesha Williams from Slalom. She will be talking to us about machine learning. So if you're interested about ML, please RSVP. We'll be sharing the information on how you can RSVP through the AWS SheBuild Tech Skills North America page. And you can also connect with us via LinkedIn. I don't know, Bavisha, if you have any last comments or questions for our audience.
no, thank you for co-hosting with me, and for our audience, please subscribe to our YouTube channels. We bring in episodes once every other Tuesday, and we try to focus on both the business and the technology aspect, and highlight customer stories. So tune in and subscribe to our episode, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.